Over the past few weeks, Donald Trump has been systematically settling old scores. Across the country, Republican primary elections are functioning as a highly targeted retribution tour, aimed squarely at eliminating anyone in the party who has dared to criticize him. Look at Thomas Massie. He's an independent-minded incumbent who has held his congressional seat in Kentucky for more than a decade. But after acting as a constant thorn in Trump's side, opposing his budget packages and voting to curtail his military operations, Massie found himself fighting for his political life against a challenger backed by a massive $20 million war chest. Massie campaigned hard, but his opponent, Ed Gallrein, took a completely different approach. Gallrein skipped most debates and public forums entirely. He barely campaigned at all. Instead, he relied strictly on the president's endorsement and coasted to a double-digit victory. Massie's defeat is not an isolated incident. He's simply the latest casualty in a sweeping purge that has already knocked double digits worth of established politicians out of their seats. In Louisiana, Senator Bill Cassidy just lost his primary to a Trump-endorsed rival, and next Tuesday, incumbent John Cornyn in Texas may face the exact same fate after the president suddenly backed his opponent in a runoff election. By clearing the board of his critics, Trump is successfully molding a party of absolute loyalists. But when you replace seasoned legislators with candidates whose main qualification is unwavering support for one man, you create a massive experience vacuum that changes the basic mechanics of how the party governs. The unwritten rules of power within the halls of Congress are actively shifting. Consider someone like John Cornyn. Under the old rules, he was exactly what the party wanted, a prolific fundraiser and a former member of the Senate leadership team, who spent 2 decades building deep friendships within the chamber. But the president explicitly dismissed that resume. He brushed Cornyn off as a good man who wasn't sufficiently supportive when times were tough, throwing his weight instead behind a challenger he labeled a true MAGA warrior. This sudden pivot has caught traditional party stalwarts completely off guard. Leaders who rely on established Senate networks like Susan Collins of Maine are openly expressing dismay that 2 decades of party loyalty suddenly count for very little. The grueling, everyday work of legislating, fundraising, and coalition building has been subordinated to a single overriding metric: absolute loyalty to the president. This timeline illustrates a major mechanical flaw in the primary purge strategy. When you vote an incumbent out in an election, they don't immediately leave office. They still have months left to serve in their term as unrestrained lame ducks. The primary outcome completely severs their need to toe the party line. With their careers essentially over, they suddenly have zero to lose by voting against party leadership. We are already seeing raw proof of this vulnerability. Look at Bill Cassidy's actions immediately following his primary loss in Louisiana. Earlier this week, Cassidy crossed the aisle and voted for a resolution to limit the president's authority to conduct military operations in Iran. He then took it a step further, explicitly opposing a $1 billion security funding request for a proposed White House ballroom. Cassidy is not alone. As a growing number of ousted Senate Republicans are forced out of the chamber, they are uniquely positioned to derail upcoming administration nominees and block critical spending packages over the next few months. By systematically eliminating his critics, the president is accidentally turning party stalwarts into the most immediate threat to his own legislative agenda, all while handing direct campaign advantages to Democrats who are eager to capitalize on the infighting. The consequences of these purges extend far beyond the final months of this Congress. The real test is the demographic reality of the upcoming November general election. In the closed ecosystem of a Republican primary, wrapping yourself in absolute MAGA loyalty is a proven formula to capture a majority. But that tactic collides with a much broader, skeptical electorate in the general election. This split line chart shows exactly where that collision happens. While primary voter loyalty remains high, the polling numbers among independent voters are sagging, driven largely by deep dissatisfaction with rising consumer prices and the administration's economic performance. The loyal candidates who survived the purges are now tasked with convincing these frustrated independent voters. But a candidate whose entire campaign relied on skipping debates and securing a presidential endorsement may be uniquely ill-equipped to win over a wider electorate. Donald Trump has definitively proven his absolute grip on the Republican Party. He cleared out his critics and demanded unwavering support. But in doing so, he traded long-term party stability for short-term loyalty, guaranteeing months of legislative sabotage from ousted lame ducks and leaving a fragile lineup of candidates to face the general public in November.